In 2025, Meredith Quinlan became the first woman, and only the third person ever, to complete one of the toughest endurance races in the world, the Terra Australis Bike Epic. Riding more than 6,230 kilometres from Wilsons Promontory in Victoria to the tip of Cape York, Meredith covered the length of Australia's east coast in just over 35 days, completely self-supported. Yet, despite finishing first, her achievement went unrecognised by the organisers. So, who is Meredith, and what is this race?
So my background in sport is, in the recent past, is ultra running, and I used to enjoy the long trail runs, and then I got into 24-hour track racing, and I competed for Australia. And I used to take my training very seriously and would err on the side of overtraining, probably, and eventually my body caught up with my mind, and I used to get quite injured. So bikepacking eventually came. I got the bike out, I started commuting to work, I started mountain biking, competing in 24-hour where you go around a loop, and then I found out about this amazing bikepacking sport where you go from one end of Australia to the other, or things like that, and I found that the thought of that very challenging, so I thought that could be for me. The thing that inspired me to first have a go was, I thought it was an incredible opportunity to experience Australia, starting in the southernmost point of Australia, and seeing the Gippsland, and then going through the Snowy Mountains, and then New South Wales, the coast, Byron Bay, and then out to the outback, and then up to the tropical north, and then the harsh Cape York region. It was just an incredible opportunity to see it all in one go, and to be able to remember the transitions that occur between each of those different ecosystems. So that was the inspiration, and I thought it was bigger than what I could do, and so my first attempt, I guess it was kind of a recce. I had a mechanical, and I wasn't willing to wait the 5 or 6 days for the part. So the next go, I was equally apprehensive that I could finish, and I just got too tired by the end, and so I pulled out at Taree, and this was when it used to start up north, so that was a fair way into the race. So third go, again, I thought I could just finish the bits I haven't done, because it was for the first time starting in the south. And once I got to Taree and I'd completed everything, I thought, no, actually, I don't mind. I'm having a good time, to a degree, even though it was raining. So I kept going. Yeah, and then I just couldn't believe that I got all the way to the end. So yeah. I was so pleased that someone finally had finished after 7 years. In the first year, 2 people finished, and Steve Halligan, he set this amazing record that we all looked up to, and I guess it was inspiring for all of us that had kept turning up each year. Paul, who came second, he also held the same crazy dream, and it was so good to see both of us finish. It was completely overwhelming to take this on, and I had to compartmentalise it and pretend to myself that I was just doing a daily ride, a daily tour. And so I blocked out the finish line, I blocked out anything too far ahead that I didn't need to think about, I didn't. And so the first day I literally just thought about where I thought I might get to that night, and enjoyed the towns that we were passing through. Yeah, so I just deluded myself. And eventually when I got to past Longreach, I could start to be a little bit more realistic about what I was doing, and understand that maybe the finish was in my grasp. The lows, for some reason in this sport, I find are the deepest, more than running. I don't know why. Maybe because you're further away. You can get further away from people quicker on a bike, and that just is a breeding ground for deep lows. because we're social animals, as I've discovered the painful way. So I think dealing with the lows is the hardest bit, particularly if they coincide with a really challenging section. Although, ironically, the challenging sections, you tend to be so focused on what you're doing that you don't slump into a depression. It's more the easy bits where you slump and you're like, oh, what am I doing? And you start thinking about, you got time to think about what you're doing. In terms of highs though, I think it's the people that I come across out there. It's the highs. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's true. One incredible moment was when I was on this very lonely road north of Muttaburra. It's the centre of Queensland in the outback, and a massive road train decided to turn around and come back and check that I was okay, and it was just incredibly nice of him and very difficult for him to turn that truck around, and then he had to turn around again, which I thought was incredible. So meeting Wes and his son Rusty, yeah, that was a real highlight. Yeah. I was conscious of turning up on the start line as fit as I could. So in January, the race started in May, I did about 400 to 600 kilometres on the mountain bike each week, and that involved commuting to work mainly and just making it a longer commute and then a long ride on the weekends. And then I'd also do at least one run a week, and then I'd do some dedicated strength work, which did peter out by the end because I got so busy with, you know, setting up the bike and everything. But I always did 100 sit-ups a day and some push-ups, but my puppy tends to jump on my back for them, so I wasn't as dedicated to those. And then there's a lot of desk work to do. Well, I like to do a lot of desk work, so I do a turn-by-turn cue sheet manually. That means I look at every corner and I go right, turn there, and I go through the entire 6,200 kilometres of the route in that manner, and then after that I overlay information that can help me whilst I'm out there. So for instance, the gap between water, when the shops are open, because you need to know if you're going to buy food at a shop, when's the next shop, what time is it open, am I going to get there when it's open? And I had sort of a working knowledge of how fast I was moving, and I had expectations of when I would get there and predictions on what the course was going to throw out at us. And so the other important factor in the planning was to get my bike ready. So there were some tweaks to the setup that I performed. I put these looped bars on in January, which really transformed the ride. It meant the tri bars I had before used to move a bit. The other thing I had to do was set the bike up mechanically, and that involved purchasing a whole lot of bike parts in advance. So I bought 3 chains and I bought a cassette, and I made sure that when I started the race, everything was new that was consumable, because it was all going to wear out. It's a long race on dirt. So I also had to send 2 chains out onto the course, so that there was a changeover 1/3 of the way in, 2/3 of the way in. And my mechanic was tasked with getting the bike ready to a degree, because whilst I can do a lot of things myself, I don't trust myself to do as good a job as him. He's a professional, he knows what he's doing, he's got strong hands, and so he just set the bike up beautifully, so that was great. And then the other thing I had to do was just get my clothes ready and the things that I had to eat and consume, and I had some medical supplies that I wanted to sort out first as well. And you know, you've got to wear the same t-shirt potentially for many days riding, so I wanted to make sure I had something that I was comfortable to wear. So yeah. I felt like giving up pretty much every day until Longreach, which was quite a fair way into the course, only because I didn't really believe I could do it. So it's quite normal in the first week for bikepackers to feel this way, because you're adjusting from living inside to living outside, and so when you've still got so much ahead of you and you're like, what am I doing? Why am I here? And you try to think up excuses of how you can pull out. It's very natural. So I wasn't very hard on myself for that. I just sort of laughed it off and said, well, you can pull out the day after tomorrow, but not tomorrow, okay? Just keep going until then. And I always gave myself an out, but I just didn't take it up. So yeah, not until after Long Reach did I think I could do it. Yeah, I have a very supportive husband at home who puts up with all my endless faffing, getting gear ready in the lead up and all the training, and the not so many chores that I do around the house. And so I'm very grateful for him. He has a great attitude. And then I have, you know, my amazing supportive work that allow me to take the time off, you know, so I have a job in the city, and my buddies at work are all very supportive of me, and I really appreciate that. And they see how hard I work, I guess, so they want me to do well. Then I have all my other usual friends, that some of them are sporty, some of them aren't. They're all cheering me on, and yeah, it's just great to have that positive community behind you and knowing that they're in your corner while you're out there. I wasn't particularly triumphant, only because I knew I was in quite an exposed part of the world and I had to ride myself out of there. So I was thinking about the next day or two and the logistics surrounding that. I couldn't just relax and go, you know, those scenes where people fall over the finish line. Well, you can't do that, because you still got to ride a few hours to get out of there and find somewhere to sleep that night, hopefully get a meal. I still had all the usual logistics to worry about. I think when I boarded the ferry from Saissa on the mainland to Thursday Island, which is where I was flying out, that's when I relaxed and I let go a bit and just, what have I done? And I really couldn't conceive it, because I'd been deluding myself so long. I had no clear memory, I think, of what had happened, so yeah.
6 riders participated in the Terra Australis Bike Epic. Only 3 reached the finish line. Meredith finished first, ahead of Paul Lester and Craig Johnston. But halfway through, the rules were quietly changed, without warning. So why wasn't her victory recognised?
Yes, so the race organiser, he issued a reroute to us partway through, up near the end, and that's quite a normal thing in a race of this length. As you can imagine, things change when you're out there, and we have to be flexible about the route, going around certain obstacles. So we had found out that the national park up in the very Northern Cape area was closed, and so we were a little bit apprehensive about crossing creeks and rivers up there. It was due to the wet season that it was still closed, and I really wasn't comfortable going through rivers with saltwater crocs. So it's certainly not advisable, as you can imagine. And so the race director, he was very kind, he gave us a reroute so that we could get through those sections. And then he changed his mind. He decided that it wasn't a valid reroute after I'd done it, and he decided that Paul, the second competitor who also did the reroute, he decided that we were not valid finishers. So that was quite disappointing at the end. It didn't detract from my overall enjoyment though, because that was not why I was there. I wasn't there to please him, I was there to experience Australia. While I was out there riding, I was not on social media. I generally don't look at Facebook. I'm forced to because of this race. So it wasn't until the end that I understood his about face on the route change. So yeah, I mean, and that was partly self-preservation. I didn't really want to know any of the drama that was going on, which Facebook tends to breed. So yeah, I didn't know about it. Having conflict with the race organiser whilst you're out racing adds an extra layer of difficulty. that I hadn't anticipated. We've been good friends for years, so it wasn't something that I expected to happen. So I really had to establish the reason why I was out there, and it solidified my resolve to complete it despite what was happening. And I guess not dwelling on the conflict too much and not thinking about it too much helped as well. I thought it is what it is and I'm going to finish, so yeah. To the future participants, I would say just be careful about what information you're given. It's not always going to be the complete truth, and he doesn't always have your best interests at heart. It's a shame because it's a really great race. I think what he's come up with is incredible, and not many people would have the tenacity to establish such an amazing long race. So yeah, just be on your guard. So when I got back from the race, I began immediately to do a write-up of the adventure, and I do that because I want to remember all the details and be able to relive it a bit down the track. And so I'm trying to write it in such a fashion that it's readable by other people. It's already at novel length, so I'm hoping to get it published. That's the plan. It's a big project. I think it's a great idea to take on a big challenge. It gives you some focus in your activities in the lead up, and even if it scares you, I think that's even better, because it might take a few goes, but if you achieve it, it's very satisfying. Yeah, I really savour the achievement, especially having tried 3 times. I want others to have a go at those things that they've shelved because they thought it was too hard. I want them to get it out and have a go. And if you fail, have another go. And don't worry about what people think. No, there is nothing.
Against distance fatigue and shifting rules, Meredith Quinlan has achieved what most wouldn't dare attempt. Her journey is one of grit, determination, and quiet strength. As we await her upcoming book, we celebrate this milestone. Not just a finish line, but a moment that redefines what's possible.